Settle in now, soften the light, and let your breathing slow. Tonight we drift far away to the old hills and villages of Korea long ago, when tigers smoked long pipes and the mountains were full of quiet magic. The roofs are tiled and gently curved, paper lanterns glow in the dusk, and somewhere a grandmother is beginning a soft and familiar tale. Think of the deep well behind the children's house, its stone rim cool and smooth under the night air. A wooden bucket rested on the edge, and far below, the dark water held a single trembling star. The sister came out to draw a little water before sleep, and she leaned over the rim to watch the reflection ripple and settle. The rope creaked softly in her hands. All around her the yard lay quiet, the packed earth pale in the moonlight, the eaves of the house casting long, soft shadows. She drank a cool sip from the dipper and felt the night settle into her bones like a lullaby. Let that cool, quiet stillness draw you down toward sleep. Growing hungry in his quiet corner, the gentle brother bit softly into one of his chestnuts, and a small crack startled the merry goblins, who scattered like leaves on a breeze and drifted away into the night. In the soft telling there was no fright in it, only a gentle scurrying, and they left behind their little magic club upon the floor. The shrine grew quiet and still once more, washed in calm moonlight. The boy crept forward and gently took up the club, marveling at its smooth and humble weight. Outside, the woods breathed slow and peaceful, and he settled back to rest, the moon watching softly over him through the latticed window. Barry's tale and the sky spirits sometimes meet in the old teller's dreams, for it was said that when Barry became a gentle guide of souls, she would carry the weariest travelers softly up toward the watchful light of the 7 stars. On a still night, they imagined, she would walk the quiet border path with a small lantern, the great dipper turning patiently overhead, lighting the long, calm way. There was no fear on that road, only soft mist and patient starlight, and her own unhurried kindness. The night lay deep and gentle all around. That quiet lantern-bearer on the misty path beneath the slow-wheeling stars drew the whole night gently down toward sleep. The turtle tells the rabbit of the tides in his low, rumbling voice, not as a story, but as a slow, soothing sound, like rain heard from indoors. They rest together on a wide, flat stone, while he speaks of the moon pulling the water in and out, gentle and faithful, forever and ever. You can let the meaning slip away and keep only the rhythm, the calm rise and fall of his words. The water around him is dim and still. The rabbit's ears settle, her breathing eases. The turtle's voice rolls on like distant surf, asking nothing, comforting everything. The sea floor is soft beneath them, and the dark water above is full of faint, drifting stars of light. Hong-gil-dong once quietly filled an empty granary for a struggling village, and afterward he climbed a low hill to watch the moon rise over the rooftops he had blessed. The village lay peaceful below, its chimneys breathing thin smoke into the cool night, its windows glowing here and there with the soft gold of supper lamps. The moon lifted slowly above the eastern hills, vast and pale, silvering the tiled and thatched roofs alike. A gentle wind moved through the grass on the hill, carrying the distant murmur of the settling village. He sat with his arms around his knees, and felt the deep, simple gladness of a good thing done. The night was wide and kind, the moon serene, and the moonlit calm drew him slowly towards sleep. The current of warm water winds through the kingdom like a slow river, and the rabbit lets it carry her wherever it will. You can imagine floating on your back, the water cradling you, the dim blue stretching above and below. The current never rushes, it meanders, looping past glowing gardens and quiet coral towers. Soft creatures drift along beside her, none in any hurry. The light fades and brightens as she passes through patches of glow and shadow, like clouds crossing the moon. The rabbit closes her eyes and trusts the water entirely. It bears her gently onward, turning where it likes, and she feels the last of her wakefulness dissolve into the slow, warm flow. The first snow of winter fell silently over the village, settling soft and white upon the curved roofs and the bare branches of the persimmon trees. There was no wind, only the slow drifting down of the flakes through the still and darkening air. Yumbu's swallow had long flown south, but the magpies remained, their dark shapes hunched and patient on a snowy bough. Lamplight glowed warm gold through the paper windows, scattering soft circles across the whitening yard. The whole village seemed wrapped in a thick hushing quiet, every sound muffled and gentle. As the snow deepened and the evening came down, the world grew so peaceful that it seemed to be dreaming already. On the gentlest nights the old tellers imagined all the kind spirits of the quiet sky and earth seemed to watch over the sleeping land together. Bari at her misty border, Samson grandmother at her cradles, the 7 stars wheeling slow overhead, and Dangam Agi's gentle sons blessing the dark fields. The whole world lay hushed beneath their patient care, the villages glowing softly with low gold lamps. The mountains stood dark and peaceful against the star-strewn sky. There was a vast and tender comfort in so much gentle watchfulness, a sense of the entire sleeping land held safe in kind unseen hands. That wide and peaceful country drew the eyelids slowly closed toward sleep. Along a quiet country lane a magpie followed an old peddler home each evening, repaying with bright company the grain he scattered at his gate. The legend made more of it, but the gentle truth was only this faithful following, dusk after peaceful dusk. Now the lane lay soft and shadowed between low stone walls, the peddler's lantern swaying gently as he walked, while the magpie flitted ahead and waited on a post in the dim. The fields beyond breathed up the cool scent of ripening grain, and a single cricket sang in the wall as the sky deepened slowly from rose to indigo above the lane. The peddler reached his glowing gate, and the magpie settled near, and the whole quiet countryside drifted softly toward the gentle hush of sleep. The sun and moon tale comes to rest in this gentle telling, with the moon sister rising soft above a sleeping mountain pasture. The grazing oxen have lain down for the night, dark and still upon the silvered grass, and a low mist gathers in the hollows. No fear walks here, there is only the slow breathing of the resting herd, and the cool kiss of the night air. The single distant cowbell sounds once, low and drowsy, then falls silent. The moon climbs higher, washing the whole wide pasture in calm, pale light. Beneath her kindly gaze, the oxen, the mist, and the quiet hills all settle into a deep and peaceful rest, and the gentle night folds softly over them. Picture Shim-chong waking softly within the heart of the lotus, as if rising from the deepest and most restful sleep. The petals around her are warm and rosy with dawnlight, curved like cupped hands. She blinks slowly, and the world comes to her gently, birdsong somewhere distant, the cool smell of pond water, the faint sway of the flower beneath her. She feels neither frightened nor hurried, only wonderfully rested, as though she has slept 100 peaceful years. The petals part a little wider, letting in a ribbon of golden morning. She breathes in deeply and lets the breath out slow. All around her the garden is quiet and kind, and she is safe, and the day is only just beginning. There is an old story of a tortoise who carried Kongjui gently across a wide, calm stream when the bridge had washed away. Tonight let it be the most peaceful of crossings. Imagine the great tortoise gliding slowly through still green water, its shell broad and steady beneath her. The water barely rippled. Willow branches trailed their leaves along the surface, and the late sun laid a path of soft gold across the stream. She sat very still, her hands resting in her lap, watching reflections drift slowly past. The tortoise moved without effort, without haste, as though it had all the time in the world. The far bank drew gently nearer. Everything was slow and safe and softly shining, and she felt no fear at all, only a deep and quiet ease. Far up the mountain, where few feet ever climbed, the old temple bell waited in its open pavilion. It was a vast and gentle thing, green gold with age, carved along its shoulder with lotus blossoms grown faint. When the wind passed through the eaves, it hummed almost too softly to hear, a long, low note that seemed to come from the mountain itself. Swallows nested in the rafters above, and at dusk they wheeled home one by one. The monk who tended the temple had long since grown old, and the bell rang less often now. Still it hung there, patient and full of quiet, holding its single sound in waiting. On a cliff top near the waiting wife's stone, a small shrine had been built long ago, where passing travelers left a stone or a flower in memory of the patient woman. By night the shrine was a low dark shape against the paler sky, its tiny roof catching a glint of moonlight. Inside, a single candle had been left burning, its soft glow seeping out between the wooden slats. The sea murmured far below, slow and endless, and the wind moved gently through the grasses on the slope. A scattering of pebbles, each left by a kind hand, lay heaped at the shrine's threshold. The candle flickered, the waves whispered, and the great stone above kept its serene and ageless watch, while the whole headland sank softly into the calm of night. Far to the south, the old story tells, by the gentle shores where the land of Gaia would rise, the 9 chiefs of the villages climbed a quiet hill called Gujibong one soft spring day. They gathered on the grassy summit as the afternoon night grew long and golden, the sea shining calm and silver far below. A gentle breeze moved through the new grass, and the distant islands lay blue and dreaming on the horizon. There was a quiet expectancy in the air, kind and unhurried, like the hush before a gentle rain. The sky deepened slowly toward evening, and the grassy hilltop above the shining sea lay calm and peaceful in the soft fading light. Mist filled the valley of my son so thickly one evening that only the very tops of the twin peaks showed above it, like 2 dark islands in a pale sea. The temple below was hidden entirely, its lanterns no more than soft golden blurs glowing somewhere in the cloud. The legend of the stone travelers felt dreamlike now, the peaks seeming to drift free above the world. Sound came muffled and soft through the mist, a single bell note swallowed almost at once. The damp air settled cool on every surface, beating on the pine needles and the temple eaves. The peaks floated dark above the cloud, the hidden lanterns glowed faint and warm, and the whole misted valley lay wrapped in a deep, soft, and dreaming calm beneath the unseen stars. There is a legend of a mountain spirit who took the shape of a great white stag and was glimpsed only at the very edge of evening, standing among the high pines. Those who saw it felt only a deep and quiet awe, and they said the mountain was at peace whenever the stag appeared. At dusk it would stand upon a ridge with its antlers pale against the darkening sky, gazing calmly over the sleeping valleys. The pines stood hushed around it. There was a profound serenity in the creature's stillness, as though it held the whole mountain's calm within itself. The white stag turned at last and stepped softly into the trees, and the ridge settled into a reverent and gentle night. The turtle who carries the rabbit moves through the deep with the patience of an old, dependable friend. His shell is broad and smooth, warm somehow even down here, and the rabbit rests upon it as though upon a slow-rocking boat. You might feel the gentle dip and lift of each long stroke, water sliding past like cool silk. No waves crash, no storms rise, Only a wide, dim blue stretches in every direction, dotted with the faint glow of drifting jellyfish. The turtle hums to himself, a sound felt more than heard, and the rabbit's eyes grow heavy. Together they travel without rush, and the sea seems to tuck them both into its quiet, endless calm. So noble bound the little swallow's wing, his usually impatient hands learning slowness and care in the lamplit quiet. He set the bird in a soft basket near the warmth of the hearth and watched it settle. Something in the small creature's trust seemed to ease him, and the restless wanting in his chest grew still. Outside, the spring night deepened, frogs singing low in the wet fields. He sat a long while beside the basket, doing nothing, only keeping a gentle watch. The bird tucked its head beneath its wing and slept. And the noble, perhaps for the first time in a long time, felt the simple calm of having cared for something smaller and weaker than himself. A learned man once sought the perfect site for a study pavilion, and a geomancer led him to a quiet knoll where a stream sang below and a mountain stood guardian behind. There they raised a small pavilion of dark wood, with a wide window facing the water. The scholar spent his evenings there reading by lamplight as the dusk deepened over the stream. The mountain behind held the warmth of the day and softened the wind, water before and stone behind, exactly as the old wisdom taught. The pavilion lamp glowed soft and steady, and the scholar's thoughts grew slow and peaceful as the knoll sank gently into the quiet of night. At the close of a long autumn day, the twin peaks of Mysan stood softly against a sky of fading rose, and below them the dragon pool, the waiting wifestone, and the quiet ponds, all lay wrapped in the same gentle dusk. Mist drifted low across the still water, the ancient stones held the last warmth of the light, and the mountains darkened slowly toward the night. The old legends of the land had all settled into calm, every sorrow long since softened into peace. A single temple bell sounded once across the valley, round and low, and faded into the deepening hush. The lanterns glowed warm, the water lay smooth as glass, and the stones kept their patient watch beneath the gathering stars. One by one the lights grew dim, the mist thickened soft and gray, and the whole quiet land of mountains and waters sank gently into a deep and dreamless rest. A famous geomancer once stood upon a coastal headland and traced how the mountains marched down to the sea and gathered into a final gentle hill before the water, calling it a place of rare and peaceful fortune. A small temple crowned that last hill, looking out over the calm evening sea. At dusk, the water turned soft pewter and rose, and the mountains behind faded into layered blue shadow. The temple bell rang once across the quiet shore. There was a deep serenity where the high land met the wide sea, a sense of long journeys gently ending. The headland filled with the soft gray of evening, and the little temple rested between mountain and ocean, drifting into a vast and tranquil night. Think of the village rooftops in the old country, their grey tiles curving up at the corners like the prows of small boats. Under the moon they gleamed faintly, row upon row, each house holding a sleeping family within. Threads of smoke rose straight into the windless night and dissolved among the stars. A cat picked its slow way along the wall, paused and curled into a tile's warm hollow. Somewhere a wind chime gave a single soft note and was still. The whole village breathed together in the dark, a quiet sea of resting souls. Imagine yourself among them, one warm light soon to dim, the night holding you gently. Let your breathing join that quiet, sleeping village. A dragon pool in a deep northern valley froze gently at the edges as winter came, leaving a clear dark eye of open water at its center. Snow lay soft on the surrounding cliffs and on the bare branches that arched over the pool. The legend of the sleeping dragon felt fitting in the deep cold quiet, as though the whole valley had drawn a blanket over itself. The open water lay black and still, breathing a thin mist into the frosty air. A single track of deer prints crossed the snow and paused at the water's edge. The ice creaked softly now and then, the mist curled upward, and the frozen pool lay calm and patient beneath the winter stars, holding its dark center open to the silent, sleeping sky. At last the day came when the little swallow's wing was whole and the bird was ready to fly. In the soft amber light of late afternoon, Hongbu carried it outside and opened his hands. For a moment the swallow simply sat there, feeling the open air, the warmth of the lowering sun on its feathers. Then it lifted dark wings beating and rose in a slow spiral above the rice fields. Yongbu watched, his head tipped back, a quiet gladness in his chest. The bird circled once as if in thanks, then climbed toward the deepening sky. He stood a long while after it was gone, content, as twilight settled gently over the valley. On a soft spring evening, an old tiger lay beneath a flowering apricot tree, its pale blossoms glowing faintly in the dusk. Petals drifted down on the gentle breeze and settled one by one upon his striped back. He had wandered down from the cold peaks to find this warm and fragrant place, and now he wished only to rest among the falling flowers. The sweet scent of the blossoms hung heavy in the cooling air, and a single nightingale sang somewhere in the dark. The old tiger breathed deep and let his eyes grow heavy. As the last light faded, and the apricot petals fell slow and pale around him, he sighed once and drifted gently off to sleep. Kim Saunders once sold a clever notion for a string of cash, but tonight he gave away his last coins to street musicians and walked home through the lantern-lit night humming their tune. The narrow streets were quiet now. The music faded behind him, and the paper lanterns of the closed shops swayed softly overhead, casting warm pools of light upon the worn stones. His purse was empty, and his heart was full, and the borrowed melody drifted from his lips into the cool night air. A dog stretched and resettled in a doorway as he passed. The lanterns glowed amber and rose, the shadows lay soft and deep, and the whole town seemed to have lowered its voice. He ambled along in no hurry at all, the gentle tune easing him toward home and sleep. It was told that Hong Gyodong could ride the wind, yet on this peaceful evening he chose instead to walk slowly along a ridge as the sun went down behind the far blue mountains. The valleys below filled with soft violet shadow, and wood smoke rose in thin straight columns from villages settling into night. He felt no need to hurry or to vanish. The world was calm, and the calm was enough. A gentle wind stirred the long grasses along the ridge, and a hawk drifted homeward on motionless wings. He watched the last light pour gold along the mountain rims before it faded into dusk, then turned toward shelter, his footsteps quiet, his thoughts already drifting toward the deep rest of sleep. Deep in a bamboo grove, a narrow path wound between tall pale stalks that glowed faintly in the light of a hidden moon. The grove was hushed, the slender bamboo swaying in slow unison before settling into stillness. A single stone lantern stood at a bend in the path, its small flame steady and warm within the cool green shadow. Fallen leaves softened each footfall to silence, and the air was fresh with the clean scent of bamboo. Far off, an owl called once and was answered by the quiet. No one walked the path now. The grove kept its peace alone. The swaying bamboo, the soft stone lantern, and the hidden moonlight together made a calm so gentle and so green that the whole grove seemed to breathe slowly, drawing the night deep toward rest. The story tells that Hingbu, hearing of his brother's troubles, came at once to help, his heart holding no grudge. Through the soft autumn evening he walked the path between their houses, lanterns swinging gently, the fields silver with dew. He found Nobu humbled and quiet, and rather than gloat, Hyungbu simply opened his arms in his home. The two brothers sat together by the warm hearth as the night deepened, old hardness melting in the lamplight. There were no harsh words now, only the easy quiet of family reunited. Outside the crickets sang and the moon climbed slow, and the long divided house of two brothers settled at last into a gentle and forgiving peace. Long ago, in a small village folded between soft green hills, there lived a kindly old man with a round wen upon his cheek, gentle as a ripe plum. On this quiet evening he sat in the doorway of his thatched home, watching the last gold light slip behind the ridgeline. The air smelled of wood smoke and damp earth, and somewhere a single cricket began its slow, patient song. He hummed an old tune under his breath, the way he always did, low and easy and kind. Slowly the sky deepened to muted blue, and the old man let his eyes grow soft and heavy, content in the gathering peace of the night. the youngest of three sisters, agreed to wed the serpent bridegroom, seeing past his strained skin to the gentle soul within. On their wedding night, the house glowed with paper lanterns, and the courtyard lay washed in soft moonlight. They sat together in quiet companionship, speaking little, listening to the night insects sing among the chrysanthemums. A low table held sweet rice cakes and warm tea. The lantern swayed gently, casting slow amber patterns on the swept earth. There was no fear in her heart, only a calm and growing tenderness. The night settled warm and fragrant around the little courtyard, and the two of them rested easy beneath the wide and gentle sky. On a remote island there rose a small mountain crowned with a hermitage, where a single monk kept a lamp burning to comfort the fishing boats at night. The legend said the mountain had risen from the sea long ago to give the people a place of refuge and prayer. At dusk the lamp glowed warm at the summit, while the sea spread gray and gentle all around. The boats came home one by one, their sails dark against the fading light. There was a deep peace in that small high flame above the wide water. As the stars filled the sky, the hermitage lamp shone steady and kind, and the whole island rested quietly upon the calm and breathing sea. When the brother and sister of the old story finally reached the calm of the sky, the tale says the gentle one chose to light the quiet night. Tonight, her moon drifts over a sleeping fishing village by a dark and glassy sea. The boats rest at their moorings, their lanterns dimmed, rocking ever so slightly on the slow swell. Along the shore the nets hang drying, and the only sound is the soft lap of water against the hulls. A cool salt breeze moves through the lanes between the low stone houses. Above it all, the moon sister keeps her serene and patient watch, and the little village by the sea sinks deeper and deeper into untroubled sleep. Beneath a great old Zelkova tree at the village center, an aged grandfather rested in the cool of evening, while his grandchildren sat quietly at his feet. The broad branches spread dark against the deepening sky, and the soft breeze stirred the leaves with a sound like distant water. One child gently fanned the old man, while another pressed a cup of cool barley tea into his hands. Fireflies began to rise from the grass, drifting like slow sparks through the warm dusk air. The grandfather smiled and closed his eyes, content among those he loved, and the whole village square settled into a gentle lamplit calm as the night came softly on. Along a country road at the edge of the fields, a row of stone spirit posts stood guard in the deep blue of the night. Their carved faces, worn gentle by long years of weather, gazed out with a calm and patient kindness. A single lantern at a wayside rest cast soft light upon the nearest of them, softening their ancient features further still. The wide fields beyond lay dark and quiet, fading into the soft line of distant hills. A cool breeze passed along the road, stirring the roadside grasses before letting them lie still. No traveler walked here now. The posts kept their long and peaceful watch alone. The wan stone faces, the soft lone lantern, and the dark and quiet fields together made a calm so deep and so old that the whole roadside seemed to rest beneath the stars. Beneath a sky scattered with cold winter stars, an old tiger climbed slowly to his favorite ridge above the sleeping world. He moved without hurry, pausing often to rest, for his hunting days were far behind him, and only peace remained. The snow on the high slopes glowed faintly blue in the starlight, and his breath rose in soft white clouds. Below, the dark valley held a scattering of tiny lamplit windows, warm and far away. The tiger reached his ridge at last and turned in a slow circle before lying down. With the whole still landscape spread silver and blue beneath him, he tucked his nose beneath his paw and drifted off into the deep winter night. At home, the gentle brothers set the little club upon the floor and tapped it softly, asking only for rice enough to feed his family through the lean and quiet days. A soft white stream of grain poured gently forth, filling the worn wooden bowls, and the small house grew warm with the smell of plenty. His wife wept quietly with relief, and the children gathered close in the lamplight. There was no greed in their wishing, only gratitude, only the simple joy of having enough. Outside, the evening settled blue and calm over the village, and the family ate their fill in peaceful silence as a deep contentment settled over the quiet house. The king, who was gentle and kind, made Tuong his queen, and the palace settled into a season of quiet contentment. On a calm evening soon after, she walked alone along a covered terrace as the sky deepened from amber to soft violet. Below her the palace ponds lay smooth and dark, and the curved rooftops caught the last faint glow of the vanished sun. Servants moved quietly far off, lighting lanterns that bloomed like small warm flowers in the gathering dusk. Her thoughts turned tenderly toward her father, far away, and she breathed the cool, fragrant air with a deep and peaceful longing. As the night drew its soft curtain over the palace, all grew still, and a serene calm wrapped the royal home in rest. In the last quiet hour before dawn, the riverside pavilion of Nam Wan waited in the soft grey hush where the night and morning gently meet. The lanterns had burned low, their glow fading as a pale light crept along the eastern hills. A thin mist lay upon the dark river, and the willows hung perfectly still in the windless air. A single bird stirred somewhere far off, then settled back into silence, unwilling yet to greet the day. The swing ropes by the water hung motionless, dim and gray. Everything paused in this tender threshold, neither waking nor asleep, held in the deepest calm of all. The fading lanterns, the soft river mist, and the still grey hills together cradled the pavilion in a peace so complete that the whole world seemed to be drawing one last, slow, untroubled breath before rest. Snow fell over a vast and silent pine forest, and an old tiger walked slowly beneath the white-laden boughs. Each branch hung heavy with snow, and now and then a soft clump would slip and fall with a gentle whisper to the ground. The tiger's breath rose in slow clouds, and his great paws pressed quiet holes in the deep white. There was no other sound in all the world, only the hush of falling snow and the soft creak of bending pines. He came at last to a sheltered hollow beneath the roots of a great old tree. There the old tiger turned, lay down, and let the snow drift softly over him as he sank into a deep and peaceful winter sleep. Through the long winter the snail bride and the farmer kept warm together in their small banked house. Snow lay deep and soft over the paddies, smoothing the whole world to a pale and silent calm. Inside, the heated floor glowed faintly warm beneath the mats, and a pot of millet porridge bubbled low on the coals. Frost feathered the edges of the paper window. The two of them sat close, sipping warm tea, while the wind hushed gently round the eaves. Nothing stirred in the white land outside but the slow fall of fresh snow. The little house held its warmth like a cupped flame, and the deep winter night settled over it, tender and still and kind. An old monk founded a temple beside a grove of bamboos so tall and green that the wind passing through it sounded like distant gentle rain. He built his hall low among the stalks, so the soft rushing music surrounded the place day and night. At dusk, the bamboo swayed in long, slow waves, deep green fading to black, and the sound rose and fell like quiet breathing. The temple lamp glowed warm within the rustling grove. There was a deep and soothing peace in the endless whisper of the leaves, a lullaby older than the temple itself. The bamboo darkened gently into night, and the little temple lay cradled in its murmuring green sea, drifting toward a soft and rain-like sleep. In a cove on the eastern shore, the turtle came to rest upon a warm flat rock just as the last light slipped from the sea. The little waves curled in and out with a soft and steady sigh, leaving lastwork patterns of foam upon the wet stone. Gulls had long since settled on the cliffs, and the only movement was the slow rise and fall of the dark water. Or out, the lamps of a single fishing boat glowed and dimmed, rocking gently with the swell. The turtle drew his head into his shell and felt the day's warmth still held in the stone beneath him. The sea breathed in and out, and he let his eyes close to the lullaby of the patient tide. There is a story of a small kitten that wandered into Congui's home one cool evening and curled up by the warm hearth. Tonight imagine its soft, sleepy company. The kitten was gray and small, and it tucked itself into a tight ball near the glowing embers, purring faintly. Gondroi sat nearby with her mending set aside, watching the little creature breathe slow and deep in its sleep. The fire crackled softly. The room was warm and dim and entirely at peace. Now and then the kitten's paw twitched in some small dream, and then it settled again. There was such simple comfort in its quiet presence. She felt the warmth of the fire and the deep stillness of the night, and the soft, steady purring drew her too gently towards sleep. In the morning the traveler woke in the kind stranger's house to find sunlight slipping through the paper windows and soft golden bars. He lay still a moment, listening to the small sounds of the world waking, a kettle, a sweeping broom, the distant chatter of magpies in the eaves. The fear of the dark hills had melted entirely away, leaving only gratitude. He rose and folded his quilt neatly and stepped outside into a morning washed clean and bright. The mountains stood blue and gentle against the sky. He bowed his thanks to the house, shouldered his pack, and set off toward home with a light and quiet heart. A school of moon-pale fish escorts the rabbit through the dim outer reaches of the kingdom, moving as one slow shimmering cloud. They never dart or scatter, they glide, and the rabbit glides with them, carried on the gentle drift. You might imagine being held within that silver shoal, the water cool and the company quiet. Far below, the sea floor fades into soft blue shadow, and far above, the surface is only a faint silver hint. The fish turn together unhurried, like a single thought settling. The rabbit feels weightless and safe, tucked into the heart of the school. Time loosens its grip. The sea carries them onward in a slow, dreaming current, and her eyelids grow heavy. In a remote temple high among the peaks, a single monk swept the courtyard as the evening bell faded into the mist. The old tiger of the mountain was said to guard such holy places, and on this night he lay just beyond the stone wall, a quiet keeper, drowsing in the dark. The lanterns along the temple eaves swayed faintly, their light pooling on the swept earth. The monk set down his broom and turned toward the warm glow of his small room. All around the pines breathed slowly in the cold, and the last note of the bell dissolved into silence. The tiger sighed, the monk bowed, and the mountain temple sank gently into its long night's rest. Humbo's family was large, and his almost small, yet there was a warmth in those crowded rooms that no wealth could buy. On still evenings the children lay close together on warm mats, their breathing slow and even, while a single oil lamp glowed amber in the corner. Outside, crickets hummed in the dark grass, weaving a soft net of sound around the little house. Yungbu moved quietly, drawing a thin quilt over a sleeping child, smoothing a stray strand of hair. The night was kind to them. The walls held in the gentle heat of bodies at rest, and somewhere a moth circled the lamp in slow dreaming loops, never quite landing. Beside a frozen winter stream, the brown rabbit nestled into a drift of soft snow beneath the bare arms of a willow. The world lay white and silent under a sky of deep and cloudless violet, and the stream below the ice murmured faint and far. Snow had begun to fall again, slow and weightless, each flake drifting down to settle without a sound. The rabbit's warm breath rose in little clouds, and his thick winter coat kept the cold a gentle stranger. A single lamp glowed orange in a farmhouse window across the white fields, small and warm and far away. The rabbit watched the snow come down through the still air, soothed by its silent dance, and tucked his nose beneath his paw. A dragon pool fed a slow river that wound through a sleeping town, passing beneath a row of old stone bridges as it went. By night the river lay dark and smooth, carrying the reflections of riverside lanterns in long wavering ribbons. The legend of the dragon's distant home gave the quiet water a gentle mystery. Willows leaned from the banks, trailing their branches just above the surface, and the small boat lay moored beneath one of the arches. Lantern-light glowed soft and gold along the embankment, doubled in the slow dark water. The river drifted on without a sound. The willows swayed and the moored boat rocked so gently it seemed to sleep, while the whole town beside the quiet water settled into a deep and peaceful rest. In the gentle land across the sea, the old tellers say, Narration and insomnia came to be honored as the spirits of the sun and the moon, dwelling in quiet peace. They lived in a calm palace by a shining shore, where soft light lingered always over the still water. In the long evenings, they would sit together watching the sea fade gently from gold to silver to deep and dreaming blue. There was no hardship in that serene place, only a slow and lasting calm. The waves whispered low and endless on the sand. The tranquil seaside palace lay soft in the lingering light, and the gentle couple rested in deep and abiding peace by the shining water. Far beneath the evening sea, the Dragon King's palace settled into its slow nighttime hush, its coral walls glowing the faint blue of a lantern seen through water. Soft currents drifted along pearl-tiled corridors, stirring the trailing ribbons of sea fans that swayed like sleepy banners. Schools of small silver fish moved in gentle circles, then drifted apart, then gathered again in no hurry to be anywhere. Above the high windows the surface light dimmed from amber to deep indigo, and the whole court seemed to breathe in and out with the tide. A great old sea turtle paused near a doorway, blinking slowly, content to rest where he was. Everything in the palace was unhurried, and the water itself felt soft as a folded quilt drawing close. It is said the friendly Tokabi loved the village stream best of all on summer nights, when the water ran cool and the moon swam bright upon its surface. They would gather softly among the reeds, glowing gently, and play their good-humored games far from any house. No villager feared them, for they were kindly beings who harmed no one and asked only for a little moonlight and mirth. The stream murmured its endless song, and fireflies drifted golden above the grass. The whole hollow seemed enchanted with a soft and friendly peace, the faint, warm glows moving slow among the reeds beneath the calm, bright moon. High above all the quiet myths of the earth, the old people looked up and saw the 7 stars of the northern sky turning slowly through the dark, like a great calm wheel. They believed these 7 bright spirits watched softly over the length of every life, patient and kind, ladling out the quiet days like cool water from a dipper. On clear nights, the country folk would step out into their dark courtyards and gaze up at that slow-wheeling pattern, feeling small and safe beneath its steady light. The night air was cool and still, the village hushed all around. There was deep comfort in those patient stars, and the peace of their endless quiet circling drew the night gently towards sleep. And now the lanterns burn low, and the old tales fade softly into the dark. The mountains are still, the village is sleeping, and the silver stars keep their slow and patient watch. There is nothing left to do, and nowhere to be. So let your breathing slow, and let the gentle old tales of Korea carry you down softly into sleep. All is calm. Good night.